confident. The power of definite purpose. You are not here to drift like a leaf blown by the wind. You are a builder of your own future, a craftsman shaping a destiny by the blows of your own hammer. But how often do you ask yourself, what am I really aiming at? What am I willing to stake my life on? When your life lacks a clear direction, you're like a man walking into a forest without knowing what he's hunting. Each day becomes a repetition of the last. The energy is there, but without aim, it scatters like light through a dirty window. Once you take hold of a purpose so definite it feels etched into your bones, something changes. You no longer wake up and wonder what the day will bring. You decide what it will bring. So when you focus your thoughts around one meaningful goal, your decisions align. Your energy becomes a blazing fire rather than scattered sparks. Imagine you're standing in a wide field with a bow in hand. You draw back the string and let the arrow fly, but there's no target. Would you do that? So why go day after day without setting a clear, burning purpose? Ask yourself now, what are you willing to dedicate your time, your breath, your sweat toward? What would make the hours feel like a price worth paying? You don't need 100 answers, just one that matters deeply. Your definite purpose is not a fantasy, it's a decision. And the moment you decide, the fog begins to clear. The world stops feeling random. You begin to walk with direction, and with direction comes confidence. Purpose makes you powerful because it means you're no longer waiting, you're moving. Belief is the foundation of achievement. You are more capable than you've dared to believe. Every man or woman who ever built something great began with nothing more than a spark of belief that they could. But what happens when you let doubt steer the ship? You stall, you second guess, you wait for a perfect moment that never comes. You look around for someone to give you permission to start. Yet those who achieve, those who build something from scratch, they don't wait for the world to believe in them, they believe first. And the world eventually follows. When belief is strong, it becomes like steel beneath your feet. You walk forward, not because there's no fear, but because belief whispers that you're equipped to handle what comes. You meet setbacks not as signs to stop, but signals to adjust. You stop seeing failure as final and instead view it as fuel. Picture a farmer planting seed in barren soil. He does not know if the rains will come. He does not know if the sun will rise each day. But he plants, waters, and waits. Why? Because he believes in the harvest. Are you planting your goals without belief? Or are you holding the seeds in your hand, too afraid they'll never grow? The world will not hand you guarantees, but it will mirror back what you deeply believe to be true about yourself. If you see yourself as strong, persistent, creative, you will act that way, and those actions build real results. Don't wait for confidence to come after success. You must live like the man or woman you intend to become, now. Belief must walk ahead of achievement, leading it by the hand. Believe, and the door opens. Discipline over desire. You already know what needs to be done. The hard part is doing it when you don't feel like it. That's where most folks turn back. They give their power to mood, to comfort, to the easy road. But you, if you want to win, you must choose discipline. Desire is a guest that's often late. You can't rely on it to carry you. But discipline? That's the mule that pulls your wagon through mud and snow. A man who lives by discipline is a man who cannot be defeated easily. Because whether the skies are gray or golden, he shows up. Whether the task is thrilling or tedious, he executes. That's real freedom. Not doing whatever you want, but doing what's necessary no matter how you feel. Imagine a blacksmith forging a blade. He cannot skip a step. He must heat the metal, hammer it, fold it, and do it again. He cannot say, I don't feel like shaping steel today, because without the process, the blade is weak. Are you shaping your life like that? Are you consistent even when it's dull or painful? Or do you only act when the mood is right? Discipline means doing what needs to be done, even when the fire's gone cold. It means making a decision once and then honoring it daily without negotiation. That's how great work is built. That's how character is formed. That's how confidence grows. Not from passion, but from persistence. The truth is, discipline doesn't limit you. It liberates you. It hands you the power to decide, to move, to succeed on your terms. The value of persistence through adversity. Every man meets resistance. That is life's way of asking, do you really want this? And your answer is given not in words, but in whether or not you keep going. The question comes disguised in 1,000 forms. It arrives as the rejection letter that lands in your inbox after months of hope. It appears as the friend who turns away when you need them most. It whispers through the voices of critics who mock your dreams and the inner voice that questions your worth. Life doesn't ask this question once. It asks it repeatedly, relentlessly, until you either prove your commitment or surrender your vision. You may face delays, disappointment, betrayal, even ridicule. But if your vision is clear and your desire is real, you will outlast them. You will move through storm after storm with a quiet fire inside. This fire isn't the dramatic blaze of initial enthusiasm that burns bright and fast. It's the steady ember that glows in darkness, the warmth that sustains you when everything else grows cold. Too many give up after one setback. They interpret difficulty as defeat. But adversity is not a signal to stop. It's a mirror. It reflects the depth of your determination. When you face resistance, you're not being punished or singled out for suffering. You're being tested. The universe is checking your credentials, examining whether you possess the fortitude to handle what you're asking for. Think of a river cutting through rock. It doesn't stop because the stone is hard. It persists, drop by drop, year after year, and in time it carves canyons. That is the power of steady, unrelenting action. The river doesn't rage against the rock or curse its hardness. It simply continues its work, patient and persistent, until the impossible becomes inevitable. Imagine building something with your hands, sweat dripping, muscles aching day after day. Others pass by, shake their heads and say, "Why are you wasting your time?" But you see something they don't, a vision. And if you hold on, eventually they see it too. The cathedral builder works stone by stone, knowing he may never see the finished spire. The entrepreneur fails and rebuilds, driven by a future only he can imagine. The artist creates in solitude, painting dreams that others will one day call masterpieces. What are you building that's worth the struggle? What would you regret walking away from? These questions cut to the core of purpose, to the difference between mere wanting and true calling. When you find something worth persistent effort, you discover that resistance becomes fuel rather than obstacle. Adversity isn't your enemy, it's your instructor. It teaches you endurance when comfort would make you soft. It teaches you creativity when the easy path disappears. It teaches you strength when weakness would be simpler. But only if you stay in the room long enough to learn. Only if you choose to see setbacks as curriculum rather than condemnation. Keep showing up. Keep trying, even if the pace is slow, because persistence turns dreams into reality, stone into monuments, and you from ordinary to unstoppable. Fear is a servant, not a master. You felt it before. Tight chest, racing thoughts, second-guessing everything you once believed you could do. That familiar weight settles in your stomach like a stone, and suddenly the world feels too big, too dangerous, too uncertain. Your hands might shake slightly, your breathing becomes shallow, and every instinct screams at you to retreat, to find safety in the familiar corners of your comfort zone. That's fear, and it will visit you often, sometimes arriving unannounced like an unwelcome guest who overstays their welcome. But what matters is not whether it arrives, because it will, as surely as the sun rises each morning. It's whether you let it stay. Fear has a way of making itself comfortable in your mind, spreading its belongings across every surface of your consciousness until it feels like a permanent resident. It whispers stories about all the things that could go wrong, paints vivid pictures of failure and embarrassment, and slowly convinces you that staying small is the only sensible choice. Fear was never meant to be your master, though it often tries to assume that role. It's a signal, nothing more and nothing less, an alarm bell that sounds when you're approaching something significant, something that has the power to change you. A servant telling you this matters. When you understand this fundamental truth, fear begins to lose its grip on you. Instead of being paralyzed by its presence, you can learn to interpret its message and respond accordingly. The strongest people you know aren't fearless. That's a myth we tell ourselves about heroes and leaders. They simply know how to use their fear as fuel, rather than letting it become a wall. They examine it like a curious scientist studying a specimen, asking questions instead of accepting its pronouncements as truth. They talk back to it, challenging its assumptions and demanding evidence for its claims. Most importantly, they move anyway, carrying their fear with them like a traveling companion rather than treating it as an immovable obstacle. Think of a man standing before a great river, its waters stretching endlessly toward the horizon. The current is strong, the depths unknown, and the other side seems impossibly far away. The water is cold enough to steal your breath, wide enough to swallow your courage, and mysterious enough to house 1,000 imagined dangers. Fear says, stay here where it's safe. You know this ground beneath your feet, you understand the rules of this side, but courage says something different entirely. Swim and see what's on the other side. What river are you standing before right now? What idea, action, or change are you delaying because fear has told you stories that aren't true? Perhaps it's the business you want to start, the relationship you want to pursue, the creative project that keeps calling to you in quiet moments. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have, a boundary you need to set, or a dream you've been carrying for years but never dared to pursue. Fear tells you you're not ready, that you need more preparation, more certainty, more guarantees. It insists you'll fail spectacularly, that others will judge you harshly, that the risk is too great for the potential reward. But none of that is written in stone. You decide the outcome through your choices, your persistence, and your willingness to learn from whatever happens. Use fear as your compass, not your cage. Let it point you toward what matters most in your life. Where the fear is strongest, there too is your greatest potential for growth, for impact, for becoming who you're meant to be. The things that scare you most are often the things that will transform you most completely. You don't need to erase fear. That's neither possible nor desirable. You need to stop bowing to it. Stop treating it as the ultimate authority on what you should or shouldn't do. Fear isn't your enemy. It's your test, your chance to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you imagined. Character over reputation. There will always be whispers in the coffee shops downtown, at the church social after Sunday service, across the back fence while hanging laundry on the line. People who misunderstand you, who look at your choices through the lens of their own limited experience, they'll misjudge your motives, creating stories about why you do what you do based on gossip passed from neighbor to neighbor like a game of telephone. Some will praise you too highly, putting you on a pedestal you never asked to climb, while others will tear you down unfairly, finding fault where none exists simply because it makes them feel better about their own shortcomings. But you must decide, here and now, what will guide your steps through this life. Will you chase reputation or build character? This choice will shape every decision you make, every relationship you form, every moment when you stand at the crossroads between what's easy and what's right. Reputation is what others think of you, a collection of opinions, assumptions, and half-truths that shift like sand in the wind. It's built on appearances, on the stories people tell about you at dinner parties and community meetings. Character, however, is who you are when no one is watching, when there's no audience to impress, no cameras rolling, no one keeping score. It's the person you become in the quiet moments of your life, when you're alone with your conscience and your choices. One fades like yesterday's newspaper headlines. The other lasts like the foundation stones of a well-built house, growing stronger with time and weathering every storm. If you let your worth rise and fall with public opinion, you'll become like a weather vane on the old Miller farm, spinning endlessly with every change in the wind, never rooted, never steady, never truly knowing which direction you're meant to face. You'll find yourself constantly adjusting your behavior based on who's watching, saying different things to different people, becoming a chameleon who changes color so often that you forget your true hue. But when your decisions come from your values, not from the promise of applause or the fear of criticism, you find something precious and rare, peace. Not the temporary satisfaction of being liked, but the deep, abiding peace that comes from knowing you've been true to yourself and to what you believe is right. Think of the great oak tree that stands in the town square, the one that's weathered decades of storms and seasons. Above ground, it may look impressive with its broad trunk and spreading branches that provide shade for summer picnics and shelter for winter birds. But its real strength lies in what you cannot see, the roots that dig deep into the earth, unseen by passers-by, steady and sure, drawing nourishment from sources that never run dry. Are your choices guided by what's right, or merely by what looks right to the crowd? This question will test you repeatedly, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in moments that will define the rest of your life. You'll be tempted to impress, to embellish your stories around the dinner table, to make yourself seem more important or successful than you feel. You'll be tempted to take the easy path because it wins faster approval, to go along with popular opinion even when it goes against your better judgment. But hold firm to what you know to be true and good. Do the work when no one's watching. The small acts of kindness, the honest labor, the quiet discipline that shapes your character like water shapes stone. Keep your word, even when it costs you something, even when breaking it would be more convenient. Dare stand by your principles, especially when they require sacrifice, when doing right means walking away from something you want or facing criticism from people whose approval you value. Reputation may open doors, getting you invited to the right parties or considered for certain opportunities, but character is what keeps those doors open, what sustains relationships and builds trust that lasts through good times and bad. And in the quiet moments, late at night when the house is still and you're alone with your thoughts, you'll know who you truly are. That peace, that integrity, that unshakable sense of your own worth, that's something no crowd can give you or take away. Your energy is sacred. Guard it. You are not a machine. You cannot give endlessly without cost, no matter how much the world expects it of you or how much you expect it of yourself. Your energy, your mental, physical, and emotional strength is sacred. It's the wellspring from which everything else flows. Your decisions, your ideas, your focus, your joy, your ability to love and create and contribute to the world around you. This energy is not an endless resource, though we often treat it as if it were. We pour it out carelessly, spending it on things that don't matter, people who don't deserve it, and situations that drain us without giving anything meaningful in return. When you treat your energy like it's limitless, you inevitably burn out. The warning signs are there long before the collapse. The irritability that creeps in, the tasks that feel insurmountable, the joy that gradually fades from activities you once loved. When you give your energy away freely to every argument that doesn't change anything, every complaint that solves nothing, every task that adds no value to your life or anyone else's, you arrive at the end of each day feeling hollow, empty, wondering where the time went, why you feel so drained, and how you managed to be so busy while accomplishing so little that truly mattered. You must learn to protect your energy the way a farmer guards water during a drought. Every drop becomes precious when scarcity reveals its true value. The farmer doesn't waste water on weeds that will die anyway. He channels it carefully toward the crops that will sustain life. Your energy deserves the same thoughtful stewardship. Ask yourself these essential questions and answer them honestly. Who gets your best hours? Are you giving your peak energy to your most important work, or are you squandering it on trivial matters and then wondering why you feel depleted when it's time to focus on what truly counts? What drains you unnecessarily? Which conversations, commitments, and mental habits are quietly stealing your vitality without offering anything worthwhile in return? What restores you? What activities, relationships, and environments actually replenish your energy instead of depleting it? There's genuine power in choosing not to respond to every insult, in recognizing that some battles aren't worth fighting because they cost more than they could ever give back. There's wisdom in walking away from draining conversations that go nowhere, in saying no without guilt when requests don't align with your values or goals, in resting when rest is needed rather than pushing through exhaustion out of misplaced pride. Picture a man walking up a mountain, carrying a heavy pack on his shoulders. The summit is his destination, and the journey demands everything he has. If he fills his pack with stones that aren't his to carry, other people's problems, unnecessary worries, obligations that serve no real purpose, he won't make it far before collapsing under the weight. The wise traveler carries only what belongs to him, what serves his journey, what helps him reach his destination. You carry your own weight in this life, and that's enough. That's more than enough. What have you been carrying that doesn't belong to you? What emotional baggage? What other people's expectations? What outdated beliefs about who you should be or what you should do? These invisible burdens weigh you down more than any physical load ever could. Protect your energy, not because you're fragile, you're stronger than you know, but because your mission requires clarity and strength. The work you're called to do, the relationships that matter most, the contributions you want to make to the world, all of these require your best self, not whatever's left over after you've given everything away. Save your best for what matters most. Stop spending your prime energy on secondary concerns while your primary purposes go unfunded. You have a fire within you, a unique flame that burns with your particular combination of passion, purpose, and potential. Don't let it flicker and dim because you kept fueling things that never lit you up in the first place. Guard that fire. Feed it wisely. Let it burn bright for the things that truly matter. Success is a habit, not a stroke of luck. Many believe success arrives like lightning, sudden, loud, random, striking without warning in a brilliant flash that transforms everything in an instant. They wait for that moment of inspiration, that breakthrough idea, that stroke of luck that will change their lives forever. But real success doesn't flash dramatically across the sky. It builds quietly, daily, through the unglamorous, often invisible work of habit. Success is not an event, but a process. Not a destination, but a journey of small steps taken consistently over time. It's built in the early morning hours when the world is still sleeping, in the late evening moments when others have given up for the day, in the countless ordinary minutes when no one is watching and no one is cheering. You don't rise by accident. You don't stumble into achievement or fall backward into excellence. You rise by routine, by the small, deliberate actions that you repeat, even when the initial thrill is gone, even when motivation has abandoned you, even when the work feels monotonous and the results seem invisible. The successful person wakes before the world expects him to, not because he enjoys the early hour, but because he understands that success is claimed in the margins of life, in the time most people surrender to sleep or comfort. He plans while others react, writes while others consume, moves while others remain stationary, works while others wait for the perfect moment. He does this not because he's lucky. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, but because he's disciplined. What are your daily habits? This question cuts to the heart of who you're becoming. Do your habits lift you toward your goals, or do they lull you into complacency? Are you building the foundation for the life you want, or are you unconsciously constructing barriers to your own success? Picture two people starting from the same place in life. One commits to reading for 15 minutes each day, choosing books that challenge his thinking and expand his understanding.